Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We are about to start the meeting. May I invite you to please take your seats? And those on the outside, may I invite you to please come inside and take your seats now. Thank you. Prime Minister of St Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, High Commissioner for St Vincent and the Grenadines, His Excellency Senior Lewis, staff of the High Commission for St Vincent and the Grenadines in London, Consul General for St Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Christopher Stanch, chairs of the various SVG associations in the United Kingdom, nationals and friends of St Vincent and the Grenadines, good evening. I am Janelle Adams, the Minister Counselor at the High Commission for St Vincent and the Grenadines, and your chair for this evening's meeting. It is my honor to welcome you, those present in the room and following online, to this important meeting of nationals and friends of St Vincent and the Grenadines with Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves. I now invite you to please put your hands together and give a very warm welcome to the Prime Minister of St Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves. Please put your hands together. The Prime Minister is accompanied this evening by his beautiful wife, Mrs. Eloise Gonsalves. Would you please put your hands together again and welcome Mrs. Eloise Gonsalves. This evening's meeting will feature a few brief speeches, a pan rendition, a presentation by the Prime Minister, of course, and a question and answer segment, followed by a vote of thanks. We will now move straight into our program and invite to the podium Dr. Daniel Kidd Sinclair to say an opening prayer, which will be followed immediately by the singing of the national anthem by Reverend Rosemary Artman.
Please, can I just ask us all to stand as we pray? Dear kind and Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us here today, nationals, friends, and leaders, united by a shared love for our beautiful homeland, St Vincent and the Grenadines. We lift up this meeting to you and ask for your presence to guide every spoken word and every heart gathered. Bless our Prime Minister, Dr. the Honourable Ralph Gonsalves, with wisdom, strength, and continued vision as he leads the nation. Grant him clarity as he shares with us today, and may his words inspire, inform, and unify. Lord, we also pray for the Vincentian diaspora here in the United Kingdom, in High Wycombe, and around the world. Strengthen our bonds of community. Remind us of our shared purpose to support, uplift, and build together, no matter the distance between us. We ask that you bless St Vincent and the Grenadines, its people, its leaders, its youth, and its future. Bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our shores. And may all that we do today bring glory to you and contribute to the flourishing of our nation. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Can you remain standing while we sing the national anthem together? St. Vincent, land so beautiful, with joyful hearts we pledge to thee our loyalty and love, and vow to keep you ever free. Whatever the future brings, our faith will see us through. May peace reign from shore to shore, and God bless and keep us true. Haruna, fair and blessed isles, your mountains high, so clear and green, are home to me, though I may stray, a haven calm, serene. Whate'er the future brings, our faith will see us through. May peace reign from shore to shore, and God bless and keep us true. Our little sister islands are those gems, the lovely Grenadines, upon their seas and golden strands, the sunshine ever beams. Whatever the future brings, our faith will see us through. May peace reign from shore to shore, and God bless and keep us true. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle, for the prayer, and Reverend Artman for that beautiful rendition of our national anthem. We will now welcome the chair of the Wycombe Multicultural Organization, Brian Lewis, to greet us and to give some important housekeeping information. Brian?
Good evening, everybody. We'd like to welcome the Prime Minister, his lovely wife, Senior Lewis, and all the nationals from all over the country, and even from St Vincent as well. Okay? So the housekeeping. So there's no fire drills today. So if you do hear the fire alarm, there's exits to the side, to the back, and out the front. We have a bar, and I think each of you have been given a soft drink ticket, so help yourself. We've got the air conditioning on. And the toilets are right down the bottom of the corridor, so the men's and the ladies as well. Now, we've given you a gift. You see this health gift? It discusses all the ailments that we as a society suffer from, dementia, strokes, and what the conditions to look for. So please take that home. It's a gift from WIMCO. It's very important and share with your family. But I hope you enjoyed the evening, and it's nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. I would also like to request that you put your phones on silent or on airplane mode until the conclusion of the meeting. I now welcome to the podium lecturer and professor at the University of Winchester, Dr. Christina Welch, to deliver brief remarks. Immediately following the professor's remarks, High Commissioner, His Excellency, Senior Lewis, will come to us and speak about an amazing project that's been undertaken by Professor Welch. Professor, please come. Professor.
Thank you very much. So, anybody that wants one of these, there's a little picture on the front of this, and this is a piece of script and a botanic drawing that was done in St Vincent round about between probably 1796 and 1800. and on the back is a QR code because I'm trying to raise some money to get a book done about the St Vincent Botanical Garden. So your botanical garden is 260 years old this year. Not only is it the oldest in the Western Hemisphere, but situated in St Vincent and the Grenadines, it's got quite the history and is going strong. But not only that, it's a beloved site for Vincentians both at home and overseas. Every Vincentian that I've met has amazing stories about the St Vincent Botanic Garden, and it's a great tourist attraction. I think it could become an even bigger tourist attraction. And I'm hoping that it will become, with the guidebook as well, the go-to heritage attraction in St Vincent. And what it lacks is a guidebook. This guidebook will give a history to the gardens, a history to the island. It will include contemporary stories, historic stories about plants and people. And thank you very much to your Prime Minister, who's agreed to write the foreword, and also to Senior Lewis, who, thanks to him, we've raised about half the money needed. So I'm still looking to raise between about £6,000 and £8,000. That will produce the first run of 1,000 guidebooks. Then all of the profits from those guidebooks will go into second and subsequent editions. So this will be something that the garden will have forever. And it will just be in a Word document so it can be updated. Anybody that donates money, and you can do it either through Just Giving or there is a UK website, everything's on here. There's lots of information about the garden. There's access to some of the things I've written about the garden. There's lots of information. But anybody who donates money will have their name noted in the back of the guidebook. You can put in the back of the guidebook if you want to be in memoriam for somebody. And if there are any businesses that would like to sponsor sections, we can deal with that as well. So I can't do this without you. I really need help from Vincentian community to get this done. So come and see me, or I can just pass these around. It's like a little bookmark, and who doesn't love bookmarks? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. I must tell you, when I first met Dr. Christina Walsh, I thought she was a Vincentian. And I'll tell you why. Because she told me all sorts of things about St. Vincent and the Grenadines, even things I didn't know about. But then I later discovered she's not a Vincentian. And so I decided, well, okay, let's see what it is that Dr. Walsh wants to do. I can tell you that she has a wealth of information, but I don't want to keep you too long. My job is just to comment briefly on what she said. The book that she's writing about our botanic garden is something I regard as really important for the education of our young children and the nationals abroad, wherever they might be. The second thing is that writing books and trying to get them published is expensive. And Dr. Walsh spoke to me about it. And I have written to various people abroad, and they have made some contribution. I think that the cost is somewhere between £12,000 and £14,000, and she's already halfway there. So what is needed is the other half. And I think that we in the diaspora in the United Kingdom and anywhere else where they may be, needed to look at this and make a contribution so that they can say we were also part of this project. One point I want to just make to reinforce, actually, it is that Dr. Walsh is not going to make one single penny from it for herself. This book is going to be written for the benefit of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and all those who are interested in our history. So when you get to the information that she's going to give you before you leave, please look at it. Don't put it in a file and forget about it. I know it does happen, actually. The last thing is that I intend to put that on the missions media platform and also on the media for the charity which I set up in the United Kingdom. So the information will be there and you can get it if you need to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, High Commissioner and Dr. Welch, for your remarks and for sharing about the guidebook project on the National Botanical Gardens on mainland St Vincent. I am now pleased to welcome Miss Anisha Thomas to perform an instrumental piece by Pan. Immediately following Anisha's performance, we will welcome Melissa Latchman, trustee of the SVG National Council, to speak about second-generation Vincentians and the importance of second-generation Vincentians joining an association. Anisha? While Anisha is getting ready, I just want to remind persons to please put your phones on silent, and also we have refreshments.
Prime Minister, St Vincent of the Grenadines, Dr. Honourable Ralph Gonsalves, High Commissioner of St Vincent and the Grenadines, His Excellency Senio Lewis, staff of the High Commission for St Vincent and the Grenadines, London, Consul General for St Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Christopher Stange, chairs of the various SVG associations in the United Kingdom, nationals and friends of St Vincent and the Grenadines. My name is Melissa Latchman, and I sit on the National Council for St Vincent and the Grenadines here in the UK. I'm here on behalf of Deanna Stapleton, our chair of the trustees. She sends her sincere apologies, but has provided a statement for me to read on her behalf. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honour and a privilege to speak with you today about a subject that resonates deeply with so many of us: second-generation citizenship and the vital role of being part of a St Vincent and the Grenadines Association. I feel privileged to stand before you today. For many second-generation Vincentians, life often means balancing two worlds. Raised in one country, we are shaped by its culture, yet we carry the traditions and pride of another. Citizenship is to us not just about paperwork or legal recognition. It's about belonging, identity, and heritage. Being recognized as a Vincentian citizen, even as part of the second generation, strengthens our connection to the land of our parents and foreparents. It serves as a reminder of our shared legacy and roots. This recognition is not just symbolic, it's a declaration of our right to engage with our heritage, contribute to the future of our homeland, and pass this legacy down to future generations. This is where the significance of associations like ours becomes clear. The St Vincent and the Grenadines associations offer a vital space for us to stay connected to our culture, people, and homeland, even from afar. They create opportunities for us to learn, share, and contribute as Vincentians, no matter where we are in the world. These spaces allow us to embrace our identities fully and provide a bridge between generations and communities. As chair of the National Council, I encourage all Vincentian associations to continue their important work of unity and collaboration. Together we are stronger. Our shared goal is to elevate St Vincent and the Grenadines to greater heights, and we will achieve this by working together, supporting one another, and celebrating the richness of our heritage. Thank you. And now I would like to invite of our 5 amazing Pathfinders, 2 of our amazing Pathfinders, to share their thoughts on what it means to be granted Vincentian citizenship as second-generation Vincentians. Can I call Ethan De Silva and Gabriella Morgan come and stand at the front here? They have something to say.
Thank you, Doctor, the Honourable Ralph Gonsalves, Chairperson, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is both a privilege and an honour to be here today and to express our heartfelt gratitude to one of the most outstanding Caribbean leaders of our time. We are especially thankful for this opportunity to experience your leadership in opening meaningful pathways for the second-generation Vincentians, like me, Gabriella Morgan, to proudly claim and embrace my Vincentian nationality. This important initiative ensures that our rich cultural heritage continues to thrive among those of us living overseas. We thank you sincerely for your words, wisdom, and presence with us today. May God bless you all and continue to bless our beloved nation, St Vincent and the Grenadines.
My name is Ethan De Silva, and I walk into tomorrow standing on the shoulders of those who came before me. Thanks to the vision and leadership of one of the greatest prime ministers of our time, I now have the honor of becoming a second-generation Vincentian. This is more than a privilege. It is a powerful connection to my roots. Holding a Vincentian passport fills me with pride because my heritage is St Vincent and the Grenadines. And I will never forget where I came from. I accept this honor not only for myself, but on behalf of the youth, those here today and those across the world, who carry our nation's spirit within them. We thank you for your vision, for believing in our generation, and for building a future we can be proud of. May God bless you all, and may God bless St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Thank you both for sharing your voices. It is voices like yours that remind us how powerful and personal our connections to St Vincent and the Grenadines truly are. May we continue to celebrate, protect, and pass on our heritage with pride. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anisha, for that wonderful hand rendition. Let's put our hands together one more time for her. And thanks to Melissa and the Pathfinders for sharing and how it feels to be granted second-generation Vincentian citizenship. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment that we've all been waiting for. I invite to the podium High Commissioner, His Excellency, Senior Lewis, to introduce the Prime Minister. High Commissioner.
Honorable Prime Minister and Mrs. Gonsalves, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and the children, and staff of the High Commission, Ms. Janelle Adams, the Chair, and Caroline de Freitas, the Councillor sitting over there. Good evening to you all. May I thank you also for coming to this meeting. I have a very simple task, which is to introduce our honored guest, the Prime Minister of St Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. But the simplicity of this task has a certain complexity because he is so well known domestically, regionally, and internationally, so that where to begin and how to end is rather a challenge. But if I were to say to you that our Prime Minister is a person who has won 5 successful general elections, that alone should be enough for an introduction. Why? Because to win 5 successive general elections, you have to be special. And you have to do things which give people the confidence in what you are doing. You don't win 5 consecutive general elections by fluke or magic, or even sorcery. We have a word in the Caribbean called obia, but it doesn't apply. I don't even know what it means. Obia. I know. You win because you come good, to use an old people saying. I could end here, but this time, for some good reason, they have given me 5 minutes. Normally, they give me 2.5 to 3, and I have to use my AI watch to as it were, delay the time. But so I wish to use up my time to add something. Recently, I went to Romania. The Prime Minister had graciously invited me to be part of his delegation on his official visit to Romania. As I listened to his conversations with officials and ministers of the Romanian government, I wondered whether there was one word or phrase which could describe his efforts in his drive for development of our country. That phrase which I was searching for came into my mind as I was returning to London. I coined it generational development. You see, the Honourable Prime Minister, in his focus on development of St Vincent and the Grenadines, does not, at least in my humble opinion, only think of today or next month or the next 5 years, but looks way into the future. For example, he did not build a bridge over the dry river just for the people existing at that time, but a bridge for the future generation. Some cynics even said the bridge would fall down if heavy rains came down, or we had a hurricane or some foolishness like that. The bridge is still there. It'll be there for a long, long time. He did not build an international airport for people who were alive at the time it was completed, or for a few years, but also for the future generation. Indeed, he has built an airport with provision for expansion. He's currently rebuilding the port in Kingstown, not only for today's generation, but also for the future generation. The point I am trying to make is that our Prime Minister engages in such development structures so that our people, and particularly the very young, can look towards the future with hope. The education revolution, which he started in 2001, was and is a major example of generational development. However, to build for today's generation and the future generation, you need vision. But I dare say, neither vision nor dreams can come to fruition without sound and strong leadership. A leadership that provides for the nation's security, stability, and sustainability. I call these the 3 S's, which we have had through sound leadership for roughly 2.5 decades. And we need a continuation of those 3 S's: security, stability, and the provision for sustainability. They form the constituent parts of our generational development now and for the future. Our democratic decision-making or persuasive voices in that respect require focus on leadership that can provide these constituent parts, which arise from vision underpinned by experience. Our honored feature speaker, who will soon address you, has repeatedly demonstrated that he has those qualities. Ladies and gentlemen, I could close here because I know my 5 minutes is coming to an end. And I know someone will say, well, you've gone over 5 minutes, but do give me 1 more minute. I must mention the Honourable Prime Minister's spouse, who is sitting over there and quietly gives him support. And if I may hazard a guess on whose shoulders the Honourable Prime Minister may lean from time to time when the going gets tough. Please give Mrs. Gonsalves a round of applause for the support she provides to our honored guest speaker and by extension. Thank you. And by extension to our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, my 5 minutes are up. So it is now my privilege to invite our honored feature speaker, the Prime Minister of St Vincent and the Grenadines, the Honorable Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, to address you. Prime Minister, if you please.
Madam Chairperson, His Excellency, the High Commissioner of St Vincent and Grenadines to the United Kingdom, Senior Lewis, His Excellency Christopher Strange, the Consul, St Vincent and Grenadines in Northern Ireland. Professor, very happy to meet you. The leadership of the National Association St Vincent and Grenadines in the United Kingdom, and all other Vincentians and friends of St Vincent and Grenadines, including our sister and brother from the Sudan, and those who are following us on social media. I'm very happy to be here in High Wycombe, yet another occasion. I want to thank Professor Welsh for her efforts, and I will talk to the High Commissioner to see how fairly quickly we can close that gap which you need to get on with your publication. It's not an onerous task, I think, for us to close the gap. I think we'll get that done. I came to the UK on this occasion to meet some important investors and also to attend an event by the Wafiq Saeed Foundation. And of course, I want to speak to Vincentians in the UK before the season of campaign begins, because we have general elections sometime between now and the end of the year, or perhaps the first 3 months into next year, constitutionally. After prayerful consideration and advice to the Governor General, we will know that date. St Vincent and the Grenadines has had a difficult year. On July the 1st, last year, just 10 months ago, we were struck by a Category 5 hurricane. It is the first time that the Atlantic hurricane season, which begins in June, is the first time we have had such a severe hurricane so early in the season. When I was a boy, they used to teach us at primary school a little ditty. You probably know it. The older ones will know it. June too soon, July stand by. August come it must. September remember. October it's all over. Well, June is not too soon. And you don't stand by in July, it comes to you in July. August come it must. September remember. And of course, October is not all over, because in Christmas Eve, 2013, we had a terrific storm. The Christmas Eve 2013, which caused immense loss and damage to property, but sadly also claimed 9 lives. Between 2001, when we came to office, and in July last year, we have had 22 major weather events. One every 2 years on an average. And we also had 21 volcanic eruptions in April 2021. in 2020 and 2021, we had COVID, which came to us from outside. And 2008 to 2009, the global economic depression struck us badly, that it took us until 2014 to catch ourselves. So we have had a difficult time as a consequence of our vulnerability to external shocks brought upon us by climate change and by the vagaries of global monopoly capitalism. Much of it disconnected from real production. There's a financialization of monopoly capitalism which doesn't connect with real production of goods and services. Indeed, if you study carefully the data, and anybody can go and look at it, between the time of the global economic depression, subsequent to it, the financial products have increased more than 4 times the real economy, because you have derivatives upon derivatives. And it's a kind of casino capitalism. And when it unravels, the working people in Britain get hit, as we saw in the 2008 September global economic depression. But if you think it hits you hard when you're in the periphery, as we are in the Caribbean, to this global system, you have to work in a manner to build resilience, both to climate change and also to the challenges which emerge from this globalized economy. We don't have a choice to be engaged with it. You're part of it. You can't jump off it. So it provides these sets of issues conspire to make it more important than ever that we lay out a clear framework as to what will guide us and within which we'll operate, and to build the necessary alliances across the region and the globe in order to lift our people's living standards. Despite the fact that we have had all these difficulties, the nominal gross domestic product of St Vincent and the Grenadines has increased by more than 3 times between 2001 and the end of last year. Of course, if you discount for inflation, it would have increased by more than twice. Real GDP would have increased by more than twice. In fact, since 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025, projected for 2025, we have had robust economic growth in all of those years. Indeed, we just had IMF in St Vincent. We're not on an IMF program. We're the only OECS country which has not gone on an IMF program. I don't like people outside my country to come in my Ministry of Finance and run it. We do what we have to do. We make do with what we have to do. We depend on ourselves, the region, and our friends globally. And we have been doing pretty well. In fact, the headline, after discussing the global situation, this is what the IMF says. Despite severe physical damage from Beryl, the economy continued the robust rebound from multiple shocks. Despite the severe physical damage from Beryl. What was the extent of this damage? Approximately $1 billion, or some 30% of our gross domestic product. The gross domestic product is the totality of all the value, the totality of all the goods and services produced in a country in any one year. The economy continued the robust rebound from multiple shocks. Well, the rebound, according to the IMF data, of course, when we speak about it in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, those who would wish not to accept the facts would always say that's propaganda. But when it comes from the IMF, it becomes authoritative. You know, an old friend of mine, philosopher Thomas Hobbes, in 1640, wrote a philosophical treatise called The Leviathan. It was a time of real turmoil, the period between the end of the monarchy and the Cromwellian Revolution. And he said something which is relevant to what I'm talking about when people don't want to accept facts. He said that if the books which contained the theorems of Pythagoras and Euclidean geometry were opposed to the interests of any group or class, that those persons will burn all the geometry textbooks with Euclidean geometry and the theorems of Pythagoras. So that is what happens sometimes when people want, you know, there's a thing which comes out of the United States not too long from, it started a few years ago, called alternative facts. I don't know how you can have an alternative set of facts, but in 2022, we grew by 5%. In 2023, by 5.5%. 2024, by 5.2%. And in 2025, it's projected by the IMF that we will grow by 4.5%. Our projection internally is 4.8, but I use the IMF number. And we are looking forward, and it's their projections also for moderate to robust growth in the medium term. As a consequence of this, well, multiple shocks. The shocks are coming from climate change. The shocks are coming from the nature of the global economy. Let's see what the next page says. And the tourism sector has continued to expand. I'm giving you the highlights. Inflation is moderating, though with upside risks amid trade tensions and elevated global policy uncertainty. There are certain things which we can't control. I can't control what happens in the United States or Europe or anywhere else. But though inflation is moderating to the level of 2%, there's still risks because of trade tensions and global economic uncertainty. So when you see the news, these things are not just for entertainment, because sometimes when it's presented in the developed world, it's by some newscasters, it sounds as entertainment, but it's real. It's real. Let's see what the other headlines say. This is not me. Formal employment surpassed pre-COVID levels, supported by expansion of construction, tourism, official, governmental sectors, and the ITC, information technology sectors. Employment, formal employment. Of course, we have a lot of self-employed people. You may say, well, what about how the banking and financial sector is going? The financial sector remains stable, well capitalized, and with relatively low non-performing loans. You know, the Bank of Scotland went under because it had a high percentage of non-performing loans. You remember that? I remember the institutions said that they were too big to fail. So the state had to enter into the picture. It says, financial sector remains stable, well capitalized, and with relatively low non-performing loans, albeit with pockets of vulnerability. We have a very well-regulated financial sector. Now, these are some headlines. How have we come that this small country with limited resources been able to chalk up these achievements? In fact, in the case of employment, the Minister of Finance was on the radio recently. Minister of Finance happens to be my firstborn son. He doesn't have his position because of any patronage. He faced the electorate, won his first election, and then was re-elected in his constituency. And every job I've ever given him, he has excelled at the job. He's a bright and able young man. And he provided the data. In 2001, unemployment was 1/5 of the labor force, 20%. By 2022, you saw the IMF said that the formal employment is above pre-COVID levels. Pre-COVID was 2019, 2020. And then 2021, we had the volcanic eruptions. And in July 2021, we also had Hurricane Elsa. A lot of people don't remember that. And He said, the labor market survey published in 2022, and you can go online and see it. We are open and transparent about all these things. IMF reports go normally, they're online, not normally, all the time. They come, whatever they publish, good or bad, critical or praiseworthy, they're online, because it's the only way an informed people can properly exercise their judgment in electing governments. A lot of people think that politics is a branch of the entertainment industry. Politics is serious business for serious people. And there are some who think that politics is about simply identifying grievances, and it becomes an aggregation of grievances, but with no plan to address those grievances. That's not politics. Because as long as we live, we are going to have grievances. The only time I've been advised we're not going to have grievances is when we all go to Beulah land, when we go to heaven. And I'm even told that some may even complain when they get there, because they are told that they have milk and honey in heaven. And when they reach there, they would say, I don't drink milk and I don't love honey. So that is something which we accept as part of the human condition. And that is why there's always an urge in us to do more and better. Because there are always things to be done. That's 2022. The labor market survey showed that unemployment is 10.8%, moved from 2001 of 1/5. And he made the point that the current rate of employment is below 10%. And he brought in aid of his contention, quite correctly, the proxy numbers from the National Insurance Services. In St Vincent and the Grenadines, those who are employed by law are required to be registered with the NIS and pay their contributions. That's a duty of the employer, to register them, to pay their share of the NIS contributions, and to deduct the workers' share, and to pay both over to the NIS. Self-employed people, however, are not required to be compulsorily registered at the NIS. It's optional. And the NIS estimates that about 20% of the persons who are working are not actually registered with the NIS. Categories such as farm workers, itinerant construction workers, some who are on the minibuses working, fisher folk, domestic workers, people who self-employed, people who sell on the streets, and people who are involved in own account activities. And the data show that those persons who are workers, who are employed, the active contributors who are workers, the active contributors who are self-employed, and a small number of voluntary contributors, which the law permits for. 250 is not a big number. But in 2000, at the end of 2000, it was 30,358 persons. At the end of the first quarter of 2025, the number is over 50,000. Out of a labor force approaching 60,000. Because we have a population, as you know, of 110,000 persons. Now, so the data is there, and you can see the evidence of it. Of course, there are some persons who are not working, who, for one reason or the other, decide they're not going to look for work. Maybe some remittances from abroad help them. They do a little hustle here, a little hustle there, by, and there are some persons who are genuinely unemployed. But as we know, everybody inside here knows, a man might be north of the Dry River living, and he's not too keen on going for a job in Lowmans, Windward. But if he has to go and see a lady in Lowmans, Windward, he'll walk. If necessary to go there. So I'm a political person with my feet always on the ground. So this shows progress. You can look after 2022, for instance. Sandals Hotel was not yet in operation. That opened in March last year. Well, there are 900 persons who are permanently, Vincentians who are permanently employed at Sandals Resorts. That's just one example, and there are others. Now, how did we get here? Despite all the challenges, all the difficulties, how did we get here? First of all, it's important to analyze correctly our condition. And the truth of the matter is that between 1763, when the British assumed suzerainty of St Vincent and the Grenadines, and the declining years of the 20th century, you had a colonial or amended colonial economy. Until you change that, you are not going to put the country on a path of sustainable development. What is the basis of the colonial or amended colonial economy? First of all, it rested upon an unlimited supplies of cheap, unskilled labor. Those of you who migrate know that. First thing on which a colonial or amended colonial economy depended upon. Cheap, unskilled labor, and unlimited supply. Secondly, the colonial amended colonial economy depended or rested upon, not depended, rested upon, low level of applied science and technology. Thirdly, such a colonial or amended colonial economy rested upon market preferences overseas. In Britain, whether it was arrowroot, sugar, or bananas. When those preferences go, there is mayhem in the particular sector. And of course, the level of infrastructure was undeveloped. That's the nature of the colonial, amended colonial economy. And it rested, by and large, on one or two major agricultural commodities. You had to turn that paradigm completely over. And that is what we had to set out to do. And I am fortunate that the people in St Vincent and the Grenadines accepted first the analysis of my party, and then accepted the path that we prescribed to go forward. Now, this is difficult. The new paradigm, the altered paradigm, the transformative paradigm, we said the economy must be based on unlimited supplies of skilled labor. I think something is on providing. Yes. No, I think a device probably was on. So, unlimited supplies of skilled labor priced at a comparative level in accordance with the International Division of Labor. That's the first point. Secondly, there has to be advanced applied science and technology to the production processes. Thirdly, you had to change the infrastructure. You had to upgrade it. You had to build an international airport. You had to put the bridge over Raboka. You had to build a modern port. And I'm coming to the first point just now, the one I made about developing the skill. And you had to have the economy diversified, many-sided, and competitive. So the paradigm was to embark on a quest to build a modern, competitive, many-sided, post-colonial economy which was at once national, regional, and global. And every single one of those words is pregnant with real meaning. And each of them has policy prescriptions and detailed programmatic interventions. For instance, in 2001, when we came to office, you had 4 out of every 10, 12-year-olds at secondary school. In heaven's name, how are you going into the 21st century with that? So you had to have all the children, 11 plus, at secondary schools. Then you had to build up technical and vocational education, not in the traditional way of just giving some marginal skills. You had to, education has to provide, there are 4 functions of an education, wherever you go. 4 central functions, 4 core functions. I don't know what the British say about it. I'm telling you from my own experience, my own reading, the way we set about things. The first function of education is to train critical minds to receive and transmit universal culture, including science and technology, but with a Caribbean particularity. That's the first thing. The second, you had to train individuals, educate them for the modern economic apparatuses, nationally, regionally, and globally. Because in a small country, you can't just train them nationally. Because an educated young man or woman, persons with skills, you have to let them have some wings. And they have to go regional, and they have to go global. And benefits could redound from that. It just means that you have to train a sufficiency to have for yourself and for those who want to go, can go. We have an open democratic system. I train you, but I can't imprison you. I rely on, in the normal process of life and living, for a significant number to stay to help us with this program of national development. The third function of an educational system in our context is to inculcate in those who are being trained, in the young persons, the tried and tested values of our Caribbean civilization, and especially its magnificent Vincentian component. And I'm very happy to hear the young man speaking about the second generation citizenship. Actually, I know his grandfather. I taught his grandfather, Tai Balcom, from the famous Balcom family. And fourth function of education is to build healthy minds in a healthy body. Because it doesn't make sense that we train you, spend a lot of money on you, you drink a lot of rum, you smoke a lot of cigarette, you get diabetes when you're very young, your high blood pressure, and you can't work properly. These are, all you need to do, you know, is to put on your thinking cap, analyze historically and comparatively your situation, and look at it across the region and the globe, and come to your conclusions. We set about. And once you began to deal with the question of education, training the mind, training the personality, the individuals, we did so through a thoroughgoing educational revolution, which is broadening and deepening every single day. I'll tell you this. When we were preparing for the 2025 budget, the officials in the Ministry of Finance said to me, Prime Minister, because of Beryl, we are going to have Hurricane Beryl. We have to make some cuts in some places because the amount of money we need. And they came to education, college and university education. I said, gentlemen and ladies, I have an alternative perspective on this. Call it counterintuitive. Rather than reduce expenditure on college and university education, I want to increase it significantly. I'm spending $45 million annually on college and university education. in the 2025 budget, it's increased by 15 million, not reduced. Let me give you a reason. You see, experts look often at numbers, but they don't look at the people behind the numbers. All the economists you read, study it at university. I studied it too. I was always struck by the study of economics as an aggregate of certain categories. Salaries and wages, profits, rents, money and banking, taxation. Well, really, behind salaries and wages are real flesh and blood workers. Behind rents are landlords and tenants. Behind profits are entrepreneurs, capitalists, call them what you will, and others, consumers, for instance, the workers themselves. And behind money, banking, taxes, you find a democratic state. How do I manage the democratic state? I don't manage it by the divine right of any king. I have to go to an electorate. And the electorate, hey, as a spiritual Baptist would say, hello. Real flesh and blood people who are either going to vote for you or don't vote for you. So I said to them, we have over 6,000 houses to build because of burial, repair and build. By the way, we're the only country in the world, this government is the only government in the world, bring me another one, which took upon the responsibility after a natural disaster to either repair or rebuild or assist in doing so every single house that is damaged or destroyed. Some people misunderstand the scope of this, and if they're not touched by burial, they send me letters. They say, comrade, I want to build a house for me, you know. Because if your neighbor, I'm rebuilding your neighbor's own, and you don't have one, you want one too. But you didn't have one which got blown down by burial. That's a different package altogether. We have programs for that. But hear me this. This young sister from the Thomas clan, I think your family come from Calder. Yes. Your house, there are 6,000 plus houses, costing us about $480 million. I don't have all the money one time. But even if I had all the money, I can't build them all one time. Because it's just not possible. You don't have, if even you had all the money, you don't have all the manpower. In fact, in the construction industry today in St Vincent and Grenadines, there's a shortage of labor. Masons, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, they're making old style on you. I hope you're not in England too long that you don't understand what I mean. They're making old style on you. But you haven't come yet to a house to repair in which you are living. You're about to go to college or to university. Your house is leaking. When rain comes, you have to put a bucket in your bedroom. And if I reduce the amount of money I'll spend on you to go to college or to university, you would see, here I am. I want to go to university, I want to go to college, I can't go. My house. You would be despondent. But if I give you the opportunity to go to college, pay for you to go, pay for you to go to university, you have a hope. You have a hope. And your hope lifts up your mom and your brothers and your sisters. Say, this young lady is going to university. So while you want your roof fixed, you know you're on an upward path. And that helps. So you have to look behind the statistics. This education revolution is absolutely amazing. I'll give one or two indicators as to what we met in 2001 and where we are now. Just a few. There were 4 primary school teachers who were university graduates. 4. 4, not 4%, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out of 1,700 primary school teachers. 4. In my home village of Connery, where there's a small primary school with just about 105 students, you have 14 members of staff. Half of them are university graduates, and others are studying. And every single primary school you go in St Vincent and the Grenadines, what I'm telling you is what is taking place. More than half of the primary school teachers now are university graduates, and there are others who are studying for their degree. All of them supported by the government of St Vincent and the Grenadines. You know, there are Vincentians who live in here, write me and ask me for tuition scholarship to go here, you know. I'm telling you. The number of the university students which you had in 2000, maybe in totality, maybe 50. Now you have thousands. At the global campus of the University of the West Indies, that $16 million building which you see there, we guaranteed the money for the university, and we start to pay anyhow. The Caribbean Development Bank on the loan. Though it has been operational, it has just been formally blessed with an opening. Over 800 Vincentians are going to university there. In St. Vincent. The head of the university said that it is the global campus in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the single site throughout the entire Caribbean, West Indies, in which most students are enrolled. For instance, St. Lucia, which has a population of 75,000 more than us, they have just over 500 enrolled. And they're doing fairly well. It has to take the St. Augustine site of the global campus in Trinidad and the San Fernando site together to come to the number of the site in Kingston, where the old cotton ginnery used to be, but burned down in 1959. I have students all over the world. One of the reasons I came here to England, as I told you earlier, is to attend an event of the Wafiq Saeed Foundation. I could have put it off because a couple of days before I left, I sprained my ankle. It's all right, it's coming along, don't worry. I got Wafiq Saeed to give annually for 5 years 3 university scholarships at the master's level. We advertised. They're going to each of these students will go to a British university, so that's 15, all of them, children of the working people. "60 applicants of the highest quality applied. The 3 selected were in scientific areas, all of them with first-class honors degree. Going to the Russell Group of universities. One of them actually is going to study at the Imperial College in London, which is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. So a man is generous like that. You're having an event, you invite me, I have to come even though I have a sprained foot. No. If you have a sprained foot, you're going on your farm to cut your bananas. You're going on your farm to cut your plantain or to reap your tomatoes. So I wouldn't allow a sprained foot to stop me coming to England. And once you set about with the university, with education in every type of education, every sector, you had to then build out health facilities. That's why we built the polyclinics. That's why we built rural hospitals in Mespo, down at Bocament, in Union, in Beckway. And that's why we built the modern medical and diagnostic center in Georgetown, which is part of a complex. We have a modern medical and diagnostic center linked to a smart hospital, linked to a 24-hour service, modern clinic attached to the playing field at Chile. Yeah, my brother, he said he come from Dixon, but is in the same broad area. And people who are here from Georgetown and Chile. That complex alone is, in US dollar terms, about $50 million US. And I'll tell you how we do things. The clinic, the Modern Medical and Diagnostic Center, that was done jointly with the Cubans. 1:40 in the morning, Fidel Castro and I shooting the breeze in Havana, and we come up with the idea of doing it. He gave me the technical personnel to do the design and to help to come and construct it with some labor. we put in the money. I have a number of Cuban professionals working there now, the highest quality. At that facility, we have all the modern diagnostic services. Yes. I want anybody to tell me which area in the Caribbean that you have a diagnostic facility of that type. I built it to accommodate 40,000 persons from Bayabu to Fancy. But I knew, because of its high quality, people all over St Vincent and Grenadines will go there. For instance, you go up there, you get dialysis free, hemodialysis. There are 64 persons on hemodialysis. Before that, you're dead if you have a problem. You remember in the old days in the village, when you can't get rid of your waste, stabbage of water. That's what they used to say. You remember that, brethren? We pay $5 million. That costs us $5 million a year. And if it costs $7 or $10 million, I'll find the money to keep the persons who are poor, who cannot afford to pay for dialysis. I cannot watch them die. We have operating theater up there. We have, it's a center for oncology for cancer in St Vincent and the Grenadines. We prepare the medication for treating cancer patients. You have MRI, and we subsidize it. And you're building people, you have to build sports and cultural facilities. So that when for instance, we expanded the facility at Arnersville for cricket. First of all, for World Cup 2007, I spent $54 million. And for the World Cup T20, in order to get games, I spent $35 million to upgrade it, including modern lights. So you play it you play the games in the night. There are people who said, the dance can't pay for the light. And my answer to them was very simple. If you know the price of everything and the value of nothing, there will never be progress. There are certain goods which are public goods and which must be financed by the public. Otherwise, how are we going to develop in a many-sided way the country? And I make links with countries all over the world, as you saw with the Argyle International Airport. Every politician, since universal adult suffrage in 1951, will tell you they're building an international airport. One man even say he got the money in the back pocket. He said he had $100 million in the back pocket. $100 million could build an international airport. We put together a coalition. We put together a compact of the willing. Countries which don't talk to one another. I went all over the world and brought them together. You know these countries? Cuba, Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, when they had a lot of oil money. The money running out a little bit now. No, I'm not bad-mouthing, I'm just speaking a fact. Austria, Georgia, not Georgia on my mind, the Eastern European state of Georgia, Mexico, Taiwan, Iran under President Ahmadinejad, Libya under Gaddafi, St Vincent and the Grenadines involved in that. I went first to the traditional places for money. Caribbean Development Bank, the World Bank, the European Union. I went to European countries, went to the European Investment Bank. I went to Britain. I went to Canada. I went to America. They all thought I was a crazy man. How you could build an airport at Argyle? This must be a madman. Because I had to move 2 mountains and 2 big hills, fill 4 valleys, span a stream and a river. I had to move 140 middle and upper middle income houses and cause them to be built elsewhere. I had to move the petroglyphs, the original writings of the indigenous people. And I had to move 1 small hotel, 2 guest houses, and a church and a cemetery, for starters. You know what the opposition in the country said? That this man is mad. He's a danger to the public. If he wouldn't go to the mental health rehabilitation center, we'll make an appointment for him with Dr. Debnat, who is the chief psychiatrist. Well, it's built. You see, there's something. I'll tell you what that something is. Submerged in our people are hidden resources. I call some of it hidden rationalities. These resources are capacities of humans, but also resources which we have not yet tapped. And we have to bring them to the fore. It's a difficult thing to do with a colonial inheritance because a lot of people don't believe in themselves. When you tell me I can't do something, I only smile. I say, wait, you go see. And that is the approach which you have to carry forward if you want to make progress. I'll tell you, right now, we have going on right now in St Vincent, following major projects. We have a $260 million US port, a modern port. We reclaim about 17 acres of land. It's going to be one of the most efficient ports anywhere in the Caribbean. The country is going to benefit. We are building $100 million US acute referral hospital on the site of the former E.T. Joshua Airport. We have an expansive school repair, rehabilitation, and reconstruction program including building for those persons who are across the Dry River. I'm going to build a secondary school. It will start before the end of this year at Orange Hill for the people north of the river, because the one in Sandy Bay got destroyed by the Soufre. I built a temporary one just below in my constituency, which is near to the North Windward. That's going to be the most expensive secondary school we have built. Going to be a high-tech school. I'm building it on the site where the great house used to be for the owners of Orange Hill Estate. In the old days, when Massa was on that plantation in the house, poor people, unless they worked there, they couldn't go up there. Well, I put in the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of the workers who worked on that estate in one of the most modern secondary schools you'll find anywhere in the world. I have the money already lined up with the Caribbean Development Bank. The village of Sandy Bay, the home of the indigenous people. We're building a $40-something million city fence in order to save the village. We have a $120 million road program which is ongoing, and we have to do more. We have a series of things doing in the area of building the IT infrastructure, the backbone. And in the private sector, by right now, as I'm talking to you, Sandals, which is an investment of $300 million US, with 302 keys. They now start the process of building 33 more suites. And after they've done that, they're going to go and build another block of 100 rooms. They're going to go from 302 to 435. That's about $120, $130 million US. And then Sandals Resorts, going to build a beaches hotel. 375 million, 375 rooms. This is now the family hotel where you can take children. 1,400 persons would be employed there when that is finished towards the end of 2027, early 2028. Further up the west coast, we are in a partnership, the government, with investors from Jamaica, where we are doing we're going to be starting later this year a 250-room Marriott hotel. The airlines are coming. I told you, when people said that the government is mad, what is going to happen here? If you go to St Vincent on a Wednesday, say, or a Sunday, between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you see 600 and something people trying to get through the airport. Because on the ground, we have Virgin, we have American, we have JetBlue, and we have Air Canada, and 2 regional airlines. And from early December, we are going to have Delta coming out from Atlanta, Georgia. Within 2 weeks or so, we have a firm which is coming from England to help us to shape how we can do the expansion. We have that plan already in relation to the expansion of the terminal building. It's very ironic. Persons who oppose me building the airport now telling me, Ralph, you build the building too small. We will do that. Meanwhile, we have to take care of the people with burial. Last year, we provided for income support and production support for farmers and fishers and for families affected by burial in excess of $35 million support. That doesn't involve the housing. And this year, thus far, between January and the end of June, I'll be spending $25 million on over 5,000 heads of households where those households are directly affected by burial. We began with 4,000 and something persons. But you know how some of our people can be. They don't get assessed. They stay in the kitchen, they stay in the yard, and they grumble and they complain. I go on the radio and say, staying at home and grumble and complain ain't going to help you. Check your parliamentarian, check the Ministry of National Mobilization, come and look for the comrade. One day when I went on radio and spoke about that, in the morning, by the afternoon, 227 persons additional were registered for assessment. We now have the exact number. A lot of money we're spending on these things, you know. Thus far, every month, well, by the last month, the last count was 5,301 persons. And we anticipate that it will reach to 6,125. I want those from Britain who are here, people are not from St Vincent and Grenadines, to understand that a population of just over 110,000, just about. When over 6,000 households, the head of the households, 5,301 right now, but it will go up to 6,125. I give them $600 a month. Last week, for instance, 800 came on who didn't get any money because they were late with the assessments. They stayed back, they didn't go in. What we do? I don't let people line up anymore for the money. I issue you bank cards, and I put the money on the bank card. So you take out how much money you want. That's how I do it. Last week, for instance, we had paid in early April for January, February, March, because we were working out some details with the World Bank. Wednesday last week, the 4,000 and something who had gotten up to March got their money for April. And on Friday, they got their money for May. The 800 plus who came on, I just didn't give them for the month. I give them from January. So on Wednesday, they get $2,400 in their hand for January, February, March, April. And on Friday, I gave them their $600 for May. Now, one of the interesting things, I hardly ever meet anybody who said they get the money. I know the cards are issued, and I know they go to the ATM. But those who don't get, well, everybody got my cell phone. They text me, comrade, I ain't get my money, I went by the people them, and so on, so on, so on. an assessment is taking place. Well, it's the nature of life and living. Understand? The housing, I'm disappointed that I asked my brethren, Kiestama, to help me with about 20, 30 soldiers to assist me with a housing brigade to help me build houses and repair houses. I met the minister responsible for the Caribbean area. Then I met my brethren from Tottenham, the foreign minister, my brethren David Lammy. I'm a Labour man here, so I don't know if you have conservatives here, Tories. I'm not entering your politics, but I'm a Labour man. I'm a Labour man. Whatever the difficulties we have, we work it out together in the Labour family. That's how we have to do our business. No. That's what I urge people to do at home too. Eventually got a letter from the Armed Forces Minister, said that it's not possible for it to be done now. Gave a number of reasons. That's fine. But I'm disappointed. Because right now, St Vincent and the Grenadines has 1,500 young Vincentians in the Army and Navy helping to defend Britain. You hear me? Through an NGO grouping with a private investor, we have 22 Romanians. They're doing very well. And I asked the Guyanese government to send me 40 soldiers to help, and they send, because I don't have enough workers, construction workers, to do what I am required to do. As I say, we have just over 6,000 houses to repair or rebuild. We've done about 4,000. Not bad, but if I had more workers, I'd have been able to do far more. And sometimes I have problems with materials because the galvanized factory in St. Vincent didn't produce enough, and you have to wait. It's a good factory, also a good one doing windows and doors. The volume which we require, wait. Sometimes the stores which bring in lumber, given the volume we have, they run out. And there are 2 companies in Jamaica which we order from. It takes about 6 weeks turnaround time to get them. So there are challenges. It's not, you have to deal with real problems in real time, is in order to get this thing done. I'm hoping to be able to carry these households till the end of July. And then in August, I have to give some extra monies for this return to school. So in addition to doing all the building, what we are doing, we have to, and economic growth, we have to make sure that we have the safety nets to take care of people. The challenges we have no longer relate to our policies, because no other alternative which is credible is on its way. None. The opposition, by the way, I'm wearing this red shirt not because of election year, The Garifuna in Honduras gave it to me. See the Garifuna design here. Let's say, sell passports and citizenship. I want to make it clear again to you. I want to make it clear again to the entire world that St Vincent and the Grenadines, under the leadership of the Unity Labour Party, we will never sell our citizenship and we will never sell our passports. The highest office in the land is that of citizen. It's not a commodity for sale. And the passport is the outward sign of the inward grace of citizenship, and that too is not for sale. You can get citizenship in one of the accepted ways, as in most countries. But this selling of passports and citizenship is wrong in principle, wrong in practicality. A lot of vagabonds come in. It's unsustainable, it's reckless to run your country on it, and it corrupts the society and democracy, not having any part of it. Not having any part of it. I don't sell passports, I don't sell citizenship, but we are the only country in the Eastern Caribbean which in the 21st century has not gone to the IMF. I pay everybody's salaries on time. I wait until the middle of the next month to pay your salary last month. Some people say that the way Ralph is doing it, he must be dealing with Obia, the devil. I dealing with God. It's God I dealing with and the people. That's what I dealing with. Then the opposition says also it will change its relationship, get rid of the relationship with Taiwan and move to mainland China. That also, in our context, would be a major error. Be a major error in our context. But of course, the people with the passports is for 25 years they're trying to get rid of me. And now that is conjoined with the activists and certain companies in mainland China with the China question, China-Taiwan question. And they're pouring money into those who want to remove me. But if money were everything, the Americans would not have lost the war in Vietnam. And I tell you this, no politician, currently or prospective, in St. Vincent and Grenadines, permit me this one utterance of immodesty. Know the people like Ralph. So those who want to mobilize and give advice from outside and give money and all, they can do that. I grew up among the rural folk. I know our people intimately. And when I won one of the 30 places at the elite secondary school in Kingston, for most of the time I was at the grammar school, I lived among the poor and the working people in Lower Middle Street. So I know the farmer, I know the rural folk. They helped to bring me up. I know the stevedores. I know the longshoremen. I know the sanitation workers. I know everybody. and I know what they aspire to and what they want, and I listen to them on an ongoing basis. I don't cut myself off from them. Never done it, I don't intend to do it. And I know what the people are likely to do whenever the next elections are called. We have some things which are unfinished. We have just given out a contract to an international company to design the modern city at Arnesville. And we are talking with investors for where the old port is in Kingstown. Very valuable real estate. When we move the port by the end of August, September, to the modern port which we are building, we want to develop that whole area. Cruise ship, additional cruise ship facilities. We're talking with investors, developing touristic shops, wellness shops, a cultural center. And we have done a preliminary study to put a tunnel under Cane Garden Point to link that development with the new city at Arnesville. And where the Beckwith port, the Beckwith jetty is, we are concluding negotiations with the Caribbean Development Bank to put that jetty further to the west of where the modern port is, down to Bottomtown. Unless you have a vision. I know some of you, they say, Ralph, those things are easier to do than building Argyle International. And if I build that, believe me, what we want to do, we can do it. We just have to have faith. But faith without works is meaningless. And hope, and a lot of love, an abundance of love. I know some of you would be saying in your head, Ralph, when are you going to give up? I'm 78 years of age. I'm an old man. But my head, my brain is functioning. And I have the benefit of good genes. I'm strong, physically. Of course, I could drop down dead any moment. I don't know when the number going to call. And the party wants me to stay on. The people want me to stay on. And I will stay on and do the go to the sixth election, six successive general elections. You know, we had a spiritual Baptist day on the 21st of May. We gave a holiday. And I make the same point, and I said, I ain't get weary yet, never get weary yet. And the entire congregation of spiritual Baptists started to sing the old Sankey, never get weary yet. I took it as an endorsement. I know Mother Sandy's granddaughter, is here. Mother Sandy is an old spiritual Baptist lady in Caratal. I used to go by her church. I knew Mother Sandy quite well. Lots of other plans are in the making. As a society, I want the persons, the British people who are here. I want them to know something and to remind our Vincentians as to the journey we have traveled. Through the fever of history, we have moved from a plural society in which each ethnic, racial, or cultural section had its own relatively distinct pattern of sociocultural integration. And that plural society was held together by force, and that the idea that everything which came to us from Europe was the best. We have moved from that. And through the fever of history, we have arrived at a position through a process of pluralization. And biology has helped. Look at the admixtures we have here among our own people. Where we are now, as I put it, we are metaphorically a symphony. We are the songs of the indigenous people, the Kalinago and the Garifuna. We are the rhythm of Africa, we are the melody of Europe, and we are the chords of Asia, and we are the homegrown lyrics of the Caribbean. Of course, we have dissonances within this integrated whole, but we deal with those dissonances through the cultural institutions and norms and values which have come out of our history. And when those cannot be solved there, we have the independent law courts and a popularly elected parliament to sort out those matters of conflict. We have arrived from being a society in 2001 with a medium level of human development assessed by the United Nations Human Development Index. There's low, medium, high, and very high. And after a quarter century, we have moved from medium to a high level of human development. We have more to travel. We have many more rivers to cross. And we will never build walls. We will always build bridges between peoples. We strive for peace, justice, and inclusive prosperity. We do so at home, and we portray that abroad. We are not perfect. No place is perfect. But we are on a trajectory which is stuffed with promise, building upon the impressive achievements which we have made over the last 25 years. I want to thank you for coming out to listen to me. And if we have some time, any questions you may have, I'm obliged.
Ladies and gentlemen, come on, put your hands together and show the Prime Minister some appreciation. And just before we take questions, could the driver of vehicle license plate LR57XCW please remove your vehicle? You are blocking other cars of persons who wish to leave. The driver of vehicle license plate number LR57XCW, could you please remove your vehicle? Thank you. We will now have the question and answer segment. If you wish to ask a question, please indicate by raising your hand. And the two ushers with the microphone, Jeffrey and Noel Lewis, thank you so much, will come to you with the microphone. And for persons who are following online, if you wish to ask a question, you may type your question in the chat box, and our online moderator will transmit those questions to me, and I will read them out. So do we have a first question? Yes, the gentleman that's pointing. Please, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for the progress that you have made in developing St Vincent and the Grenadines. There's no doubt that a lot of work has been done during your time. Nevertheless, what concerns me is the progress that you have made could be undermined by the level of crime in the country. What is your response to that?
I think it's a very good question, and I was hoping that it would come up. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there is a tiny minority of young males who have a fascination with guns, supported by a greed connected to involvement in the drug trade, particularly cocaine. And they have a propensity to criminal violence. So you have killings connected to groups. Some people call them gangs. From my own analysis, they haven't solidified into gangs. They're associational groupings involved in these activities which I've just mentioned, because there's not a question of identifiable leader with a succession and a particular structure of the group. It's more fluid, and people join and leave. There are, of course, homicides connected to behavior which arises from absence of restraint. We have had people having a quarrel at a rum shop, and the quarrel degenerates into a fight, and death results. I have some cases like that. There are some involving lovers. But I think the area which you are concerned about is the first one which I mentioned. This is a complicated problem to address, because you require a whole of society approach to this. You can't have a boy and pay no attention to him, or very little attention to him in your home. And when he's 14 and you can't go with him, you say, that is my problem, that is Ralph's problem. Clearly, it's all of our problem. We have had, with the increased modernization of society, including technology, information technology, that we have had a breakdown in many, many cases of the coherence of a family structure. That's one problem. Arising with modernization, the breakdown of the family structure, the technology, and other factors, we have a loosening, a diminution of solidarity, and the rise of what I call atomized individualism, an individualism which they only look after themselves and don't consider anything, your neighbor, your family, your neighbor, nor the community. That has to be dealt with in the family. It has to be dealt with in schools. It had to be dealt with in churches. It had to be dealt with by local leadership in the communities. And of course, it has to be dealt with by state action. State action in terms of making sure you have the police force properly trained, equipped, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, the law court system, magistracy, High Court, Court of Appeal, all the way up, regional linkages with the regional security system, the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, Interpol, intelligence relationships with the United States of America, Britain, France. The whole complex of things. If you look carefully at the profile of most of these the small group of young males, you will find among the principal characteristics are invariably they come from broken homes. They drop out from school. They do not finish their secondary education, and they do not seek to make use of the other technical vocational opportunities which exist. I'll show you something. We have a program called On Site. We have a number of targeted interventions, the YES program, Youth Empowerment Service, the support for education and training on site, attachments, people at different levels, from primary level, people who dropped out, secondary school students, college graduates, even university graduates, to go and work with a firm, an enterprise for 6 months. We pay them. We pay them stipends ranging from $1,000 to $2,200 monthly. The statistics reveal of the 470, the selection is now being done for this batch. So I brought the data with me. 472 applicants, 99 males applied, 373 females, 21% who applied are males, and 79% are females. At college, 70% of the students at the community college are female. Similar number of our students at university are female. We have an issue here. Having said this, and I'll come back to the point as I'm making the profile, that there are far more young males who are involved in college and university education, who are involved in productive activity, far, far more than them, than those who are involved in criminality. So we must never lose sight of that particular fact. So we have youngsters coming out of broken families, dropping out of school, not taking advantage of the opportunities. Very difficult for even the leaders in the church community to get to them. Many of them don't listen to what takes place in Parliament. They don't read the newspapers, don't pay attention to what is happening, save and except in relation to their own narrow, nefarious activities. I believe you have that phenomenon too in Britain. I may be talking about a problem which also exists here. And then, of course, they get involved with narcotics. The number of bays in St. Vincent and the fact that we live in a dangerous neighborhood. The United States of America is a wonderful country for people to go to and work and study and so forth. It's a high quality civilization in one respect. But most of the guns in St. Vincent and Grenadines and the rest of the Caribbean come from the United States because they have a constitutional position of the right to bear arms, so you can buy guns very cheaply, and they come down. You'd have somebody using a gun to kill somebody in Atlanta, but it may well reach St. Vincent and kill somebody else in St. Vincent. Same thing happened in Trinidad, Grenada, whatever it is. And these individuals, the whole of the community, as I've just mentioned in the state, have to address this. When I was leaving London, I drew Sino and Eloise's attention to something on a billboard, well, an electronic billboard. Boys are what you teach them to be. Boys are what you teach them to be. We have to teach our boys better at all different levels. There is no silver bullet to address this question across the Caribbean, or indeed in the United Kingdom, or in the US, or in Europe. London is called the knife capital of the world. Young males are involved in this thing. You know, young boys are a joy. Young girls too are a joy. But because of greater numbers of young males who get involved in problems, criminal problems, they're clearly a greater risk, a joy and a risk. And every parent who is listening to my voice this evening, here, if you want all of us to help to address this issue of crime, spend a little more time with your young boys and your teenage boys. You hear me? That is where it starts. This is a problem which only all of us can solve. Now, having said that, we haven't reached a level of criminal violence as in some places to undermine our progress. But you're quite right. If we don't arrest it, conceivably, it could do so. I know many persons say, well, when they hear one group got another group and somebody dies, they say, well, that's them. The problem with that, there's often collateral damage. And every one of these young men who die, every single one of them, there's a mother and a father to that young man or that teenager. So you want me to give you a completely frank and straightforward and an honest answer, that's it. But we are doing, and we spend a lot of money on security, on the police, on the law courts, on the prosecutors. We have updated our laws, make some of them very strict in relation to gun ownership and gun offenses and the like. Just did so about 2 years ago, year and a half. So that's my answer to you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, you may ask your question.
Yes, I'm just interested in, because, I mean, I came to this country when I was 9 years old, at the age of 9, many, many years ago. And I'm quite interested in St Vincent and the whole solar power thing, because, I mean, I see a lot of sunshine. My mother was here, then my parents went back to the Caribbean. They had quite a modest, lovely life, and they've both passed away now. They've left a house, and I know my mother she's a very innovative lady, and she had built in solar power. So when you went home, you didn't have to pay for electricity in terms of water. The water was always warm because of the sun. Even when the sun didn't shine, the water was still warm. But I'm just thinking in terms of cost and progression in terms of solar energy, because I don't really see much when I go home. I don't really see much, you know, just to the use of the actual natural resources there. I don't see much progress there, if you know what I mean. And I think there should be in that area. I think people should have more solar power driven energy resources on the island.
You're quite right to raise the question of green energy, alternative energy to imported fuel. And there is the policy of the government to increase the production and distribution of green energy. There are three principal ones in relation to St Vincent and the Grenadines. The first is geothermal, which we began to explore. We did it with grant resources. And we do have, when the drilling was done, we have the heat in excess of 250 degrees Celsius to provide the steam. The problem is that the rocks where the geothermal resources are, the rocks lack a sufficient permeability for the steam to come through for the production of the electricity. There is a loop technology, almost like a radiator system, which has been patented, and they have it at a small field in the United States, small geothermal field. And we are working with this alternative modality, but we do not know whether it could be applied effectively to scale. Theoretically, it's possible, but whether it could be applied to scale. But for geothermal, unless you get significant grants or soft loans with low rates of interest and long periods of amortization, the capital costs are heavy. Why we went to geothermal first? Geothermal will provide a base load, 98, 99%. And therefore, you can use it as an easy replacement for imported diesel. There is wind, but we are not too enthused about wind because the place is so small and you're likely to uglify the country. I don't know if that word is in the English dictionary. But it sounds like a good word. So we avoid the uglification of the country. Now, solar. We do have, when you go in Argyle, you see a solar farm which we have. If you look out on the right side of the window when you're landing on Virgin, you will see we have a solar farm there which assists us in reducing the cost of electricity at the airport. Vinlec itself, the company, has solar installations themselves, and we do give duty-free concessions to individuals to put in solar. The problem with solar is this: whatever you install, whatever capacity you install in solar, you will get just 20% of the energy from it. So it doesn't have a base load like geothermal, because obviously the sun doesn't shine on nights, and often you may have cloud cover. So the actual output from your installed capacity is just about 1/5. What is required, therefore, is to get battery storage. And the battery storage is, though the price of the solar photovoltaic installations, though the price is reducing, it's still expensive. The price is reducing. To replace wholesale your current stable grid with solar without battery storage is problematic. In other words, you have to store the energy in the batteries. And the prices for batteries have been high, though coming down. So you need, again, resources. As I said before, if you want to do it large scale, you have to have the batteries, and you will need resources to help you with that initial capital cost. If you can afford solar just for your house, the installation, you can recoup your cost between 5 to 7 years. The other thing is this, which we have to, we install solar in Union Island. And to produce 1/3 of the demand in Union Island. We have a small plant also in Myro. And we had a reputable company. We did the solar installations, and the specs which came show that they will be able to withstand Category 4, Category 5 hurricanes. Well, they just didn't withstand Beryl. They flew like birds. They just went. Now, I mentioned some challenges, but your point is correct. It's an area where we have to continue to work and work assiduously to be able to have alternative forms of energy. No. It helps if we do it too, because even though we don't produce a lot of greenhouse gases, we don't contribute a great deal to global warming. Symbolically, it will be very important for us. Even though we don't produce, we get involved in it. Whereas others who want to drill, baby, drill. That they would creating additional difficulties in this age of the Anthropocene, man-made climate change. But energy, you're quite right, is one of the areas to enhance competitiveness in the production of goods and services in St. Vincent. And one way you can do that is with green energy, provided you satisfy all the things which I just talked about. So as you will know, I don't have any notes in front of me discussing a highly technical question, but I've been involved in it, so I had to learn and have people who know about this thing advise. That is, in a nutshell, would be my answer to you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. We have some comments and questions online.
Sure.
Trisha Daniel says, thank you, PM, for the presentation. The Wycombe SDA Church says, thank you, Prime Minister, for all your hard work and dedication to our great land of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Keep doing the work for all our people. God bless all Vincentians around the world. Joan Samuel says, thank you, PM, for all that you have shared with us. May God bless you and your family. And there's a question from the Wycombe SDA Church, from Andre and Selena Kidd Sinclair. What makes you motivated to run again in the next campaign, and how does it feel to be elected by the people 5 times in a row?
Well, it's humbling to be elected 5 times in a row, and they tell me that I'm currently the longest serving Prime Minister, head of government continuously in a country which runs competitive elections. I understand there's another place where there's a leader, a Prime Minister who is a little ahead of me in years, but I'm told that in that country they tend to know the results of the election before they are called. So I think that can reasonably be discounted. The truth is this. I never thought I was going to be Prime Minister, much less Prime Minister, for 24, 25 years. I got involved politically 56 years ago as a student in Jamaica when I was president of the Guild of Students. And the then Jamaican government had banned Walter Rodney, who was a lecturer at the university and my friend, from returning to Jamaica. And I led the students in a massive protest in the city. It was joined by thousands and thousands of Jamaicans. It was supposed to be, they said that it is the largest protest in the country since the anti-colonial uprisings of 1938. And we were beaten and tear gassed. The university was surrounded by soldiers for 2 weeks. The only thing which they allowed in was food. And before that, I was interested in what is happening because I grew up in Connery, near to, surrounded really by 3 plantations, Bellevue, Connery, and Goss. And I saw a lot of things which were wrong, but I didn't know that I would be involved in this way. Though from the time I was a boy, in the village, boys my age looked to me for leadership and so forth. But that event in October 16, 1968, I was a youngster of 22, and I decided quietly in my mind and in my soul that I'm going to do something in my life. However I earn my living, I will do something for justice, for peace, and for inclusive prosperity. And so that is simply what it is. And I am, you may say, the Seventh-day Adventist brother or sister who asked the question, that I don't think that I'm finished with everything that I want to do, and I will not like to leave behind any unfinished task. Always things to do, but there are a few important ones I want to put properly in train. But we have a good team with lots of good young men and women. I want to thank the Seventh-day Adventists. I have a very good relationship with all the churches. But there are 2 churches in St Vincent and the Grenadines which we have had a lot of discrimination against, 2 religions. The Spiritual Baptists. Persons would have seen at the event at Victoria Park on the 21st of May. They would have seen me singing Sankeys, playing the drums, and so on, and ringing the bell. For 20 years before I became Prime Minister, I was the warden of the Spiritual Baptist Friendly Society, and I was the lawyer for the Spiritual Baptist Organization of St Vincent and the Grenadines. I went around all the churches. I didn't do it for any politics. Because when I was a boy, I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church. And the European priests, good people, but would tell us, don't go and listen to the Spiritual Baptists. And the more you tell me not to do something, is the more I can do it. Something like that. So I from the time I'm a boy, and I'm happy that we have arrived at the point where we can give a national holiday for the Spiritual Baptists. The Seventh-day Adventists, they were never discriminated against in relation to the right to practice their religion freely. But they were discriminated in some other ways before I arrived in office, which I couldn't allow to stand. First of all, the Seventh-day Adventists have a university in Trinidad. It's now called the University of the Southern Caribbean. But before it became a university in its own right, it was the Caribbean Union College, part of Andrews University, which is the major university for the Seventh-day Adventists worldwide, an excellent university. Graduates from the Caribbean Union College were not recognized by the government, the previous government. And their graduates were not paid like university graduates. Completely illogical. There was no rational basis for it. So I changed that immediately. Secondly, no assistance was given to students who wanted to study at the Caribbean Union College. And I also changed that. And insufficient support was given to the disproportionately low support was given to the Seventh-day Adventist secondary schools, and I also changed that. They're doing fantastic work in St Vincent and Grenadines. They are the fastest growing church in the Caribbean and certainly in St Vincent and the Grenadines. The Seventh-day Adventists hope to get me, leave the Roman Catholic faith, and the spiritual Baptists think that they're going to get me to baptize me, to take me on the morning ground. Well, we will see what happens. Don't know what the Lord has in store, but at the moment I'm a Roman Catholic and I go to all churches. But I want to thank the Seventh-day Adventists for their phenomenal work. And I'll say this, the pastors who are trained by the Seventh-day Adventists in Trinidad at the University of the Southern Caribbean are among the most connected and best preachers in the country. And anytime they turn out, sometimes they turn out too many that they can employ. And I make sure that we employ them in the government to be counselors for young people, to work in the social welfare department of the government. Excellent people, well-trained, very disciplined. I have a great admiration for the Seventh-day Adventist faith.
Thank you very much. I see a gentleman to my left who would like to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Comrade. My question basically is looking at the foreign policy for St. Vincent. With respect to the American Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, would have touted that the Caribbean involving slavery, humans, with respect to the professionals that come to our countries to work. Given that we have an education revolution in St. Vincent, what are the contingency plans we have in case the Americans use their hegemony against us? I know that we might have a meeting with them, but I haven't really followed as to what was the outcome of the meetings that you all had.
I believe that the American government is satisfied that the governments in the Caribbean do not permit human trafficking in relation to the Cuban doctors. There was a report which was raised about some matters relating to the Bahamas. But if that were true, that would have been a unique situation. When this matter was addressed by Marco Rubio, I made sure that I, as the Prime Minister, because I understand the implications of this, prepare myself the documentation to send to the American government. Some governments didn't provide a lot of information. I decided to do the other thing. I wrote a 5-page letter to Marco Rubio, and I attached a 10-page appendix detailing how Cubans, professionals, the doctors, are employed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I'll tell you, I think they were surprised by the thoroughness. First of all, let me say this. We're a country of laws, and we are a country which we are a signatory to several international conventions touching and concerning labor. And we'll never allow anything to happen in St Vincent Grenadines which contravene our laws or contravene the international conventions to which we are a state party. Never. The Cuban doctors receive a salary, those employed by the state, by the government, commensurate with the salary of other doctors in the country in those categories. We provide for them, and a value is put to what we provide for them. Housing, because they come there, we don't want them to go around looking for housing. We get the housing for them. We provide housing, we pay for the electricity, we pay for the water, we pay for the internet. That has a value, and the rest of the money is paid directly into their bank accounts. What is paid into their bank accounts is not taxable. They are permitted to do private practice, and they do. Every year, they get 4 weeks holidays. We pay for their passage to Cuba and back, because the rules are changed in Cuba that there were no limitations on your movement. Then there are medical doctors employed in St. Vincent who are Cubans, who are private, who are employed with private entities. You have, in one case that I know, a doctor employed with the state. They're very enterprising. He saw the opportunity for, well, he does private practice, but he saw an opportunity that sometime later nights, if some people don't have transportation to go from where he's working, our patients, he bought a taxi. So he's a doctor, and when he's not working, somebody else drives his taxi. When he's off, he drives the taxi himself. We employ teachers from Cuba in different fields. One of them is a pastor. They're all very patriotic for Cuba. But this Cuban is an evangelical pastor in St. Vincent and Grenadines. They can do what they want, go where they want. There's nothing trafficking. There are procedures if there are any disputes to be resolved. I documented every single thing in 10 pages, in addition to outlining all the issues behind the facts to my brethren Marco Rubio. We had a good conversation on it when we went to see him at the State Department. We didn't spend a lot of time on it. There are some countries which were not, in other parts of the world, I understand, have been insufficiently responsive or don't have the arrangements that we have. We also have engineers, other professionals from Cuba, not only doctors. And it appears to us that when Marco Rubio came down to the Caribbean, and when we went up, those of us whom he didn't see when he came down, we went to him, he seemed to be satisfied. He made the point that he's not against the Cuban doctors coming to these islands. He just wants to make sure that we comply with our domestic legislation and international regulations and standards. So That's where we are. If the Cubans were to be out of St. Vincent, immediately the delivery of hemodialysis services at the Modern Medical and Diagnostic Center would be closed. We are training people and we have trained persons, but the numbers required. No. The initial threat was that if this matter is not sorted out, the visas for those of us in the political directorate would be taken away of our immediate family and so forth. Well, I don't want my visa to be taken. I wish I could travel to every country all over the world. I'm a citizen of the world. But if I had to choose between going to the United States of America because of this and to have 64 people die, you know I wouldn't allow the people to die. Fortunately, it hasn't come to any of that because, as I said, we're explaining. And I think that the Americans understand what we are doing in the Caribbean, and I believe that they are satisfied. I think there were some misconceptions on some earlier things. And, you know, sometimes in the taverns in South Florida, you may get some extravagant things being said because you have a lot of anti-Cuban sentiment among some people. I found Marco Rubio to be very open on this question, and I take him to be sincere on what he was about. The original statement, which was made by the State Department, we thought to have been incorrect in several material particulars, and it was our duty to explain them. We have an excellent relationship with the United States of America. We have differences on certain matters, but friends can disagree. There are persons who hold the view that they must have an antipathetic position to President Trump and his administration. I don't take that position at all. The American people elected President Trump, and I respect the wishes of the American people. And I just set about to find the appropriate spaces within our relationship to advance the interests of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a purely practical manner. I think I've answered you in as far as I can go on this particular question. And I'm grateful that the meeting was offered. I actually requested the meeting. I saw in one newspaper article that we were summoned. In fact, when I wrote Marco Rubio, I said to him, you really should have an engagement with us, either in St. Vincent, either in our sub-region, perhaps St. Vincent and Grenadines, or we can come to Washington. And then he said, well, we must come to Washington, and we went. So there was no instruction. Sometimes some guys write some things in newspapers without knowing the facts. Everybody knows that Ralph is anti-imperialist. I'm against imperialism. I'm against hegemony. I'm against bullying. The relationship that we have with the United States of America, I have not found that they have been imperial with us. I have not found that they have been bullying to us. or hegemonic towards us. They raise an issue. I answered from our own perspective. And that's it. Very often, our own insecurities in our head make us feel that we can't speak to powerful countries in a respectful way with the facts, and if we have a difference of opinion, we have a difference of opinion. Look, let's face it. St Vincent and the Grenadines is located where it is geographically. We are next to the most powerful country the world has ever seen. I can't lift up St Vincent and the Grenadines and take it to Vladivostok or the mouth of the Amur River. Those who may wish me to do that are embracing absurdity. This is a powerful country, and we have had a history of relationships. And as I say, from time to time, we will disagree. Like, for instance, we have a difference of views as to how to treat with the Venezuelan and Cuban questions. And we speak to each other honestly about those things. But the Americans love the fact that we don't sell passports and citizenship. They want those programs to be closed down. So to the Europeans. So to the British, the Canadians. And even people who run them realize they are on borrowed time. Though the Americans have relations with the People's Republic of China, mainland China, they have an act of their legislature signed by the president since the 1970s, a right to defend Taiwan. But the Americans have had, in relation to Taiwan, a strategic ambiguity. They first went and established relations with mainland China, with Nixon, when Kissinger was the Secretary of State, because they wanted to drive a wedge between mainland China and the Soviet Union at the time. And though they were from the same Marxist camp, they didn't see, the Soviet Union and China didn't see eye to eye on many things. And of course, big money loved that, because there's a big market for 1.4 billion people. And the Chinese saw an opportunity to come out from the cold. But the US still maintains its relations with Taiwan, though not at a diplomatic level. So different countries find different approaches to the question, but they are concerned, for instance, about what they consider the growing presence of China in Latin America and the Caribbean. I'm not on that ticket with them, but we have relations with Taiwan. Matters in which I have to stain my crease on to bat. I stain my crease. If the bowling is such that it permits me to dance on the wicket and hit the ball over the boundary, well, that is the case. So you can understand from the metaphor that I use how we conduct our foreign policy. We are friends of all, and we strive for a better world.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Prime Minister. We have come to the end of the program for this evening, and I now welcome Clinton Rose to deliver a vote of thanks. Thank you so much for coming this afternoon. Clinton?
last one. The foot stood up
Good evening, all.
so far.
Prime Minister of the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, High Commissioner of the Grenadines, Senior E. Lewis, staff of High Commissioner of the Grenadines, Council General of the Grenadines, Dr. Christopher Strange, chairs of the various organizations, SVG, nationals and friends. We had a wonderful evening. I hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you sometime soon. Have a wonderful evening. Cheers. Bye.